So, here's a question for you. What if the absolute best thing you ever did was also the very last thing you ever did? Today, we are diving deep into that exact idea with Charles Dickens' epic, A Tale of Two Cities. It's an incredible story of love, revolution, and, well, the ultimate sacrifice.
Right off the bat, the story hits us with one of the most famous lines in all of literature. And you know that one sentence? It perfectly captures the heart of this entire novel. A world of insane contradictions where hope and total despair, light and darkness are all happening at the very same time.
All right, so what exactly did Dickens mean by the best and worst of times? Let's jump into this world of deep, stark division, all starting back in the year 1775.
Okay, so on one side of the English Channel, you've got England. It's prosperous, sure, but people are also kind of wrapped up in superstitious fears, ghosts and highway robbers. But then you look over at France, and the fears there are way, way more real. We're talking about crushing poverty everywhere, and people facing just brutal torture for the smallest crimes. It's a completely different and terrifying reality.
And it's on one of these grim, muddy roads that a messenger delivers a note for a London banker, a guy named Jarvis Lorry. The message is super short, super cryptic, just 3 words: recalled to life. And this, right here, is the little spark that's going to light a fire and uncover a secret that's been buried for almost 20 years.
So that bizarre message, recalled to life, it makes you wonder, right? Who is this person exactly? And what kind of life are they being recalled from?
Well, that message leads us straight to Dr. Manette. His story, his trauma is just awful. He was locked away unjustly in the infamous Bastille prison for 18 long years. And the result? The man is completely broken. He's lost his memory, he's lost his identity. All he does, day in and day out, is make shoes because it's the only thing he remembers how to do. The only cure, if you can call it that, starts when he's rescued by his daughter, Lucy.
And his only real path back to himself comes from someone he didn't even know existed, his daughter, Lucy. And here's what's so cool. Her name, Lucy, comes from the Latin word for light, and that is exactly what she is. Her compassion is this light that cuts through the darkness of his past and starts, slowly but surely, to bring him back to the world.
So, as Dr. Manette slowly begins to heal, Lucy's own life gets all tangled up with 2 very different men. Men who, in a really strange twist of fate, happen to look almost exactly alike.
The story then jumps forward 5 years, and boom, we find ourselves in a London courtroom. There's a young Frenchman, Charles Darnay, on trial, and the charge, being a spy, a crime that will get you killed.
It's right here that we meet Sidney Carton. He's this brilliant lawyer, but he's also incredibly cynical, kind of drunk all the time, and just seems to hate himself. And as he's just sitting there barely paying attention to the trial, he notices something absolutely wild. The prisoner, Charles Darnay, could be his twin. He's his perfect double. So Carton, in a rare moment of brilliance, uses this unbelievable resemblance. He basically points himself out to the court, completely confusing a key witness. It shatters the prosecution's case and gets Darnay set free. And just like that, this one act creates this weird, unspoken connection between 2 guys who could not be more different.
Of course, as fate would have it, both of these men end up falling for the same woman, Lucy Manette. Now, the Honorable Charles Darnay courts her properly, but Sidney Carton, who thinks he's a total waste of space, he confesses his love in a totally different way. He tells Lucy his life is useless, but then he makes this incredibly powerful promise that he would do anything, literally anything, even die, for her and for anyone she loves.
But it can't be that simple. There's a dark family secret and a revolution just starting to bubble up in France, and they're both about to cast a very long shadow over everyone's fragile happiness.
So, on the morning of his wedding to Lucy, Charles drops a bombshell on Dr. Manette. His real identity? He is an Evremond, the nephew of the vicious Marquis Saint-Evremond. Yeah, the very same family that got Dr. Manette thrown in the Bastille all those years ago. The shock is so intense that it sends the poor doctor right back into his old traumatic shoemaking trance.
While Charles and Lucy are trying to build a quiet life in London, things back in France are getting worse and worse. Years of being oppressed and starved have pushed the ordinary people right to the edge, and all that simmering rage, it is about to explode.
And then,
It happens. The people of Paris just erupt. They rise up and storm the Bastille, the very symbol of tyranny that once held Dr. Manette captive. This is it. This is the violent, bloody birth of the French Revolution, and it's like a tidal wave of history that's about to pull Charles Darnay right back into the chaos.
Darnay, being the good guy he is, goes back to Paris to try and save an old family servant. But everything has been turned upside down. The guy who was found innocent in a London courtroom is now instantly arrested in Paris just because he's an aristocrat. His fate has been completely tragically reversed.
And this right here sets the stage for the novel's incredibly powerful climax, where a wrong that was buried long ago and a promise that was never forgotten are about to decide everything. And in just the most devastating twist of fate you can imagine, the final nail in Darnay's coffin, the evidence that condemns him to the guillotine, is a letter. A letter written by Dr. Manette himself, back when he was a prisoner, denouncing the entire Evermonde family, down to the very last one. He has unknowingly condemned his own son-in-law.
With all hope gone and Darnay headed for the guillotine, Sidney Carton sees his moment. This is it. This is his chance to make good on that promise he made to Lucy all those years ago and to finally give his so-called useless life a truly heroic meaning.
He cooks up this incredibly daring plan. First, he uses their identical looks to get into Darnay's prison cell. Then, he swaps clothes with him, drugs him, and has the unconscious Darnay carried out to safety, back to his family. And Carton? He stays behind, ready to take his place.
As he walks calmly towards the guillotine, Sidney Carton's final thoughts are not of fear. They're of peace. He has completely transformed his life of despair into an act of ultimate love and sacrifice. He finds this profound sense of redemption in his very last moments.
And the story leaves us with these huge questions that still feel so relevant today. It really makes you think about that razor-thin line between justice and pure vengeance, and to really consider the incredible world-changing power of a single selfless sacrifice.